Welcome, everyone. I'm Mike Mershazadeh.
And I'm Ashley Ward.
And you're listening to the What Matters podcast, and our mission
to spotlight top RIAs, wealth managers, and investment professionals who are redefining wealth management.
Join us as we dive into their journeys, strategies, and insights.
Whether you're an investor or an inspiring pro, this is for you.
Get ready for impactful conversations on the What Matters podcast. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the What Matters podcast, where we explore the world of finance and beyond. I'm your host, Mike Mershazadeh.
And I'm Ashley Ward.
Today, we're thrilled to have our guest, Courtnie Nein, a co-founder of Good Life Companies and an independent financial planner. Courtnie has been a prominent figure in the financial services industry since 2007, and her initiative and client-centric approach has earned her numerous accolades.
Welcome to the show, Courtnie.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Well, we're excited to have you with us. Let's dive right in. So Courtnie, let's start by delving into your very unique journey. So can you share with us and your listeners your story, starting in the financial services industry in 2007 and the experiences that led you to co-founding Good Life and the position you're in now?
Yeah, I've had an interesting story. I went to school, actually. I went to Syracuse University on a full ride for field hockey and went into the business school. I was fortunate enough to get accepted into the Whitman School of Management my freshman year. My dad had a manufacturing company, and it was, he was hoping I would go get some, business background and eventually go into supply chain management to be able to help him with the manufacturing side of things, but then also encouraged me to get a degree in marketing to be able to also kind of cross with sales. And when I was there, I got a really well-rounded education and was exposed to a lot of different fields: accounting, finance, economics, supply chain, marketing, the whole bit. And I ended up also getting a minor in psychology while I was there because it was fairly easy with the way the curriculum was structured. And I really liked the personality and like the personal aspect of psychology and like reading people and understanding people. And I just thought when in business, so much of it really is like building relationships and being able to understand, your audience. So I got a minor in that. And played field hockey, as I said, but unfortunately my senior season, I ended up tearing the labrum in both of my hips. And it was devastating. Like overnight, my career ended and I needed to figure out what I was going to do because I was actually a semester ahead. And all my teammates who were my best friends, I was living with them. They were traveling to away games and I wasn't able to travel because I was rehabilitating my hips, and they kept my scholarship, but I was medically disqualified. So I was just unable to really go along. And while I was there, in that like crazy state of mind, it was like that first lesson I had in really having to kind of reinvent myself. My whole life I'd been a scholar athlete. And while I was going to school for business, the reality of like graduating and needing to pursue something after school didn't really hit me until it was put right in front of me. And I was speaking with my dad. And he's like, if you want to look at other opportunities, now it's kind of that time while you're not playing, you can evaluate if you want to really come work for me or look and see what other career opportunities are out there. So I was like, what, the silver lining in this is that I'm going to be a step ahead of, maybe some of the other kids I'm graduating with and really figure out my career path now versus waiting until the spring because I was graduating that December. And I put my resume out there and a firm called Waddell & Reed contacted me. And they introduced me to the idea of financial planning. And I didn't love numbers, even though I was in business school. I liked more of the relationship aspect of it. And they explained it that really the financial planning there was an art. The numbers kind of solve themselves as you utilize software and things like that. But just understanding people and walking people through some of the most challenging decisions they have to make in their lives, the most important decisions they have to make in their lives. And I thought that was, very fitting for me, given that I had some of the psychology courses I had taken and really that marketing stuff that I had done in school. And it was really designed, the program that I was at Waddell & Reed, there was no training. There was zero formal training. I was an independent contractor right out of the gate. There was no formal like training that we really had other than understanding what a financial plan is. But there was no salary. It was 100% commission. And I had to obviously pass my securities licenses in order to even have this opportunity to pursue the career. So what I did was, while my teammates were all traveling to away games, I used my newfound free time, because I wasn't by myself very often. But I used my newfound free time to really study for the securities exams, and I passed them while I was in college. So I sort of got up and running, generated my list of 300 people that I knew. So I had people to call when I got done with school, and was able to hit the ground running with it. But I studied for my securities licenses, passed it, and graduated, and literally walked right into the career. And I got to Waddell & Reed on day one, and my former business partner was actually there for about a year prior to me joining Waddell & Reed. He'd already been through a little bit of training and had some experience. And he's like, hey, it's your first day. Do you want to go on a meeting with me? And so I went on a first client appointment. And I was like, wow, this is pretty awesome. Because in my head, I was like, you know what, I'll give this a year. And if it doesn't work out, I have an amazing, education from a wonderful school, and I'll be able to find a job, or I'll go work for my dad. But let me give this a year and see if I really like it. Because being 100% commission right out of school is not easy. Thankfully, I didn't have student loans or anything like that, because I had my scholarship. So I sort of had, that in my favor. But it was hard. You're met with a lot of people saying, you've never even earned a paycheck. Like, why would I even give you, my hard-earned life savings when you haven't even earned a paycheck yourself?
Right.
So there was definitely some headwinds that we faced that first year, but we started to kind of narrow in on sectors of the market that we were familiar with. So having grown up with a lot of small business owners, my dad had a lot of connections with other small business owners, and they started giving me an opportunity to sit down and actually talk to them and walk them through financial planning. And it's shocking how many business owners themselves, they might have an advisor who's doing investing for them, but it was shocking to me how many advisors didn't really take these business owners through formal financial planning. And Waddell & Reed, they're actually acquired by LPL now, which is where we left back in 2012 and came to. So it's kind of funny how, all of those advisors that we were working with at our prior firm all ended up here anyway. But, we got a really good foundation on how to do the financial plans for clients. And I'm really grateful for that foundation, because I do think it set us apart from, a lot of the competition. We would do the financial plan for the clients. We would present them with strategies and solutions instead of going in and feeling like we were selling product to them. We were selling strategies to them, and then we were able to find the investment product to fit whatever strategy it was that we were proposing to them. So we kind of did this, and it was like, once you got your first 5 or 10 clients, it was like, all right, we got into a little bit of a groove. The other sort of market that we started working with was public educators. And the reason we did that, as well as I had a lot of family that was in education, and we have a really unique pension system for retiring teachers in Pennsylvania, where they leave with $200,000 or $300,000 in assets that they've accumulated during their working career, and they have to roll it to an IRA. So it was like, all right, if we get enough of these retiring teachers, we'll sort of have a steady pipeline, every year, if we can kind of build ourselves up as the Pennsylvania State Education focused retirement advisors, maybe we start to brand ourselves as that. So we kind of had these 2 different groups of people that we worked with, and we did have 2 different strategies that we worked and sort of explored and with them, because you had your business owners who have, attention span like this. They want to know what they need to know in 5 minutes, and then they're out. And then you have your teachers who want to know everything. So we started to equate the financial plan for the teachers as if it was their lesson plan for their classroom. This is your lesson plan for your financial future. So we started to really craft our message for them. And then for the business owners, it was like, all right, you outsource everything else in your, professional life, outsource this to us and let us be, that person that you bounce your ideas off of. So we kind of had 2 different messages, but given that I had a little bit of that personal psychology classes, I knew it's all about your audience, and you could be selling and doing the same thing, but if you're really able to kind of explain yourself and exploit what makes you unique to be able to serve that market, and it resonates with that audience, it seemed to me like it was a recipe for success. And that's really what we did the first 2 or 3 years, was just kind of honed in on these couple groups of demographics. And really to this day, I would say 60% of my clients are educators, and I have people coming in here at 3 o'clock, and they're retiring teachers that were referred to me from somebody else. So 17 years in the business now. I'm kind of like that go-to person for teachers that are looking to retire, and business owners, of course, who are, the small business owners that are just trying to figure out what they need to do on an annual basis from a financial planning standpoint. So, those were the demographics that we worked with. We went from zero in assets to about $40 million in 4 years' time. We were the number one ranked team at Waddell & Reed. And I think as we got familiar with the culture and everything that Waddell & Reed stood for, we were getting invited to top advisor conferences. And it was a really cool opportunity for us to learn more about the firm that we were at, because we were independent. It was just, they were our back office, but now we were kind of getting invited to really interact with the leadership team there. And it just seemed like everything was archaic. It was like everything was so hard, and they weren't creative with marketing, and we would come up with ideas and it was always like, you can't do that. Well, why can't we do that? It was just, we kept hitting like roadblocks, everything we tried to do. And I think that's the case for a lot of, advisors that are at these bigger firms, where they kind of have to fall under corporate structure, and you're really kept in a box. And being that I was around small business most of my life, like that didn't work for me. We just kind of thought differently. We marketed differently. And we were nervous because it was 2007 when I started. The 2008 crash had just happened. Terrible time to go into financial services. But when we were there, it was like, I think our concern was that the revenue of the firm was basically cut in half, like many financial services firms during the crash. And they weren't doing anything to recruit new advisors. We were the most successful advisors they had in years. And we had all these other financial advisors that were at Waddell & Reed for a long time, about to retire. And it's like, if you don't have anybody coming up under the ranks, and you have all these advisors that are going to eventually retire, and we're not able to do all the things that, social media wasn't allowed, like all the stuff that other advisors could do, like, we're going to go out of business. So I think as we were doing these top advisor conferences, we realized that Waddell & Reed wasn't where we were going to end our career. And if we weren't going to end it there, it was like, what was the point of staying much longer? But it's scary. You build your practice up from 0 to 40 million. You can't tell your clients you're leaving. You're trying to see if, like, what other options are out there. And you're doing this all really discreetly. But we just felt like, spent a year going to all the major firms and felt like going independent was really the only path that we had. And so I found out I was pregnant with my oldest son in 2012. And I'm like, if I'm going to go, I better go before he's born, because who knows what, I'm fearless by nature, but I think becoming a parent, your mentality changes a little bit. It's not just about you anymore. It's about, your family too. So that was really the catalyst to be like, all right, let's go, like, buckle up. Now's the time if we're going to do it. And we ended up moving over about 93% of our assets during our transition, and it was successful. So
tell me about that, right? So you guys left Waddell, and you founded Good Life.
Yes. So when we were at Waddell & Reed, we were able to call ourselves, our first names at Waddell & Reed, but we couldn't really brand ourselves anything but that. And so a lot of times we felt like we were personally spending money on marketing, whether it was, we would have teachers at an indoor arena football game who were retiring that June. We would invite them onto the field and do like a congratulations, you have 35 years of service, and make a big to-do about it, because a lot of, teachers are proud to be able to reach that milestone, and they weren't being honored anywhere in the community. So we started doing that. We would call the business managers, get lists of teachers who are about to retire, invite them onto the field. And we spent a lot of money to do like a tailgate beforehand, and made it a really cool experience. Until it was said and done, we're like calling ourselves Waddell & Reed. We felt like we were marketing for the other 20 advisors that were in the practice. So it was really important for us to like come up with a name that we felt was a feel-good name. It was really all about the values that we stood for and about the mission that we were really looking to accomplish. And time again, you're sitting down, you're meeting with clients, and you say to them, like, what does retirement look like? I just want to be comfortable. I want to have a good life. Well, the next person that comes in might be saying the same thing, but their version of the good life looks completely different than the person that was there an hour ago. So we're going back and forth, and it was like we were trying to figure out what we wanted to call ourselves. And we didn't want it to be our last names, because when we were at Waddell & Reed, there was a lot of advisors that knew we were kind of up and coming, and they knew we were not happy at Waddell & Reed. And they said to us, if you guys ever leave, let us know how you're doing it. We totally come with you. So we knew our business plan when we were going independent. It wasn't just about us. It just wasn't about our private practice. It was also eventually going to be an opportunity for us to build something bigger than ourselves. And it was to roll out these services to other financial advisors. So knowing all of this, we didn't want it to be our last names. And we were out the one night, and the song from Good Life by One Republic came on the radio, and we're like, that's it. That's the name, Good Life. Like, we're going to call ourselves Good Life. So that's how the name came to be. And we went independent in February 2nd of 2012, and we went to LPL, and we told them exactly what we wanted to do. And that was really build an ecosystem and a service organization for other financial advisors to be able to also go independent, without having all the headaches that we had to go through when we went independent, which was you have to find real estate. You have to, transition your clients over. You have to build your office. Like, you have to do everything that a normal small business owner does. But you're also in this stressful time of moving all of your revenue over.
Yeah.
And so we started tracking, going back to my supply chain management background. We went back to all the things that we did to go independent. And I just started documenting all of that out. And we figured out a way to scale that up and approached other advisors at our firm, that in the office that we had left from. And 2 advisors joined us. And they were kind of like that test for us to test the processes and test all the procedures that we went through when we went independent. And same thing, like, they came over, clients transitioned over. We worked out, the kinks that every small business owner has. And we just kept refining the process. And we were approached in like 2013 by a group of advisors that we were really tight with, out at the Pittsburgh office. And they called us and were like, whatever you guys did, like, you really made, Waddell & Reed angry because you guys up and left, and you're bringing other advisors with. They're like, can you get us out of here too? And we're like, sure. They're like, can you find us real estate? And I'm like, I guess so. So we just went out to Pittsburgh, and we found office space with them. And I worked with a general contractor, and we designed their space. We got them all their furniture. We got them their desks, their computers, everything they needed to go independent. And we helped them build like a website and basically a standalone business. And we helped them map all their clients over to our platform, so they knew what types of accounts to open when they got here. And back in July of that year, we planned for maybe 2 or 3 months, and their office was ready to go. And in July of that year, I think it was like 150 million in assets or something came over to LPL. And we're like, I think we're onto something here. And then the recruiters at LPL, they loved it because there wasn't really at the time anybody else doing this, where, LPL and Commonwealth and some of these other independent recruiters will say, hey, come to our platform, we'll do the transition. But we were literally doing everything: real estate, marketing, website, training their staff. We had, in-house investment management. We just kept adding services onto our organization. And it was really driven by the needs that the advisors had when they went independent. Everybody was looking for something different. And it was always like, all right, we'll figure out how to build it. And that's what we did. And I think we were up to like 300 advisors in like a 5 or 6 year period of time. It was pretty wild. We were fast growing. So,
well,
Wow.
so let me ask you this: you guys are sitting now at a 2.5 billion plus of AUM, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that's about where the firm's at right now.
So, let me I get clarity there. Is LPL, do they own Good Life, or is it a partnership? How's that?
We are a hybrid RIA firm. So when we came over to Waddell & Reed, when it was just myself and my partner at the time, we came over in 2012. We plugged into another hybrid RIA firm. The hybrid model essentially means that any brokerage business and any advisory business is all held on LPL's platform. So we didn't need to go out and get, a Schwab or a Fidelity for advisory business and then a broker dealer for the other business. LPL houses everything, which is nice from a client reporting standpoint. We're not logging into 3 or 4 different systems. So we joined another hybrid firm when it was just our practice moving over. But once we recognized the value really is in owning the RIA, we knew we had to create our own. So I worked with an attorney and got us filed with the SEC, and we did a federally registered RIA firm back in, I think it was 2015 or 2016. I can't really remember anymore. So technically Good Life, for any of the advisors that are part of that, the hybrid firm, Good Life is the RIA, and then LPL serves as custodian in that capacity. But there's, LPL shifted a lot during my time as I was, co-owner and serving as president, where they were recognizing that they wanted to build up their corporate RIA firm. So they made a lot of internal changes, which made it a little bit harder for us to recruit into our RIA. But advisors could still leverage all the services that we had built out, from investment management and real estate and all the other things that we did. And we found a common ground to work with LPL to really partner with them, so that if an advisor was on their corporate platform or on our RIA, we were able to provide pretty much the same services to them.
Really cool. Are you guys still with LPL?
Yeah. Yep. Everybody's still with LPL right now. So.
And how many total advisors are with Good Life now?
To be honest, I don't know what the number's up to. Kind of fast forward back to, I would say 2021, 2022. I went through some personal changes in my life, and I just the firm grew so quickly, and I was tasked with a lot of responsibility while still maintaining and growing our private practice. It was just hard for me to really be able to keep up with everything and the demands of the business. I was missing out on a lot of things with my boys, and became a single mom during that period of time. And it just was, I was just very overwhelmed. So my partner and I had a long talk, and I was like, you know what, you're really passionate about building out the advisor sleeve and on all the division and the services that you guys are doing over here. I'm really passionate about being a financial planner. So why don't I take the role of really seeing the financial planning practice through, and you kind of take the rest. So I'm kind of no different than any of the other advisors that we recruited. I'm an advisor basically leveraging the services that my organization built, just like the rest of the advisors. But I want to say it's still up to 250, 300, somewhere in there. I'm not 100% sure.
And
Wow.
so do your advisors, do they have their own brands, a lot of them underneath?
Yeah, we did make a pretty good name for ourselves, and the name Good Life, it's a really feel good name. Our whole thing is like when we're marketing to new clients, it's like, welcome to the Good Life. It's a fun name to brand with. So I would say about a third of the advisors utilize Good Life branding. Like we have Good Life of Tampa, we have Good Life of Pleasant or Mount Pleasant. Like we have Good Life of whatever city they're in. So some advisors chose to go that direction. Some advisors decided to come up with their own branding, like Cornerstone or something that maybe resonates with them personally or resonates with their community. So it's a mix of both.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And so if you don't mind me asking, when in moving into your new role, are you still managing partner of Good Life?
No, I completely stepped away. I think for my own mental health and my personal feel good of what I want to do. Like I have about 115 million in assets that I manage. So it's a full-time thing. So it's myself, and I'm an executive admin. But yeah, I've stepped away. I sold all of that, back to my partner, and then I assumed control of the practice.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, Courtnie, as someone who was co-founder, executive managing partner, and now stepped down, what do you think are some of, the most important entrepreneurial lessons that you've learned throughout this whole journey that you think would be really beneficial for aspiring wealth managers or people who are looking to go independent, become that managing partner of a firm? Anything that you think is really valuable to share with them?
I would say, know who you are and what you stand for, and what makes you unique and what makes you different. I mean, our business, there's a lot of financial advisors that are out there, and I think latch on to something. For me, it was I'm very passionate about the close relationships I hold with my clients. And I think a lot of advisors inherently do that because you're talking about money, which is something that's so personal to people, regardless of who you are. Um, but find what resonates with your clients, because I think the advisors that came over to us or that we knew transitioned and didn't have successful transitions, it's because they weren't willing to like reciprocate that relationship back with the client, if that makes sense. I think you need to humanize yourself a little bit. I think there's a lot of advisors that are in our industry that sometimes, I don't want to say they talk over clients, but they tend to talk over and complicate things more than need be. And I think sometimes it turns clients off. And I really think it's about building those relationships, because if you're looking to go independent and if you don't have the relationships, the clients aren't going to come with you, regardless of what you think.
Right.
Gotcha.
And in terms of, the work-life balance there, you clearly took a step back so you could, have more of that balance.
Mm-hmm.
Anything more you can kind of share about that?
Yeah, I think for me, I had two pretty difficult pregnancies. I think the stress of running the business and starting a business really with my first one weighed heavily on me. My oldest son he was like 6 weeks premature. Both of my boys were growth restricted. So at like 28 weeks, fortunately, my body was like not accommodating the pregnancy anymore. So I was put on bed rest with both of them. My oldest one was on breathing treatments for 3 years. He had apnea that he had developed. So he was on heart rate monitor around the clock for 9 months. And I had to give him caffeine every day to stimulate him to breathe. So like he would hold his breath. He would hold it for like 30 to 40 seconds at a time. So there was just a lot that was going on. And it just was very, very difficult for me to kind of do both. But I don't say I was trying to, I didn't know what to prioritize. It's like your livelihood and your family, like both of them are right here. Obviously my son's up here, but like that was a big struggle for me. And I think I regret having jumped back to work as quickly as I did with both of them. And it's like time I won't get back, but now I'm here and I'm coaching their soccer and I'm doing all the other things that I want to do. So yeah, I don't know. I think people say work-life balance, and honestly, for me, it's more become work-life integration. I'm trying to do like anything extracurricular that I do, community service wise or community organization wise. If it doesn't involve my kids, I'm probably not going to be doing it. As business owners, we always give back to the community. I do a lot in that regard, but my focus really is, if it's not involving my kids, I'm probably going to say no. So I think for me, it's this has kind of allowed me to kind of recenter and refocus and kind of ground myself in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
love that. I like work-life integration. It's so important.
Yeah, like the balance. It's like it's near something's always out of balance.
You never have
so
to choose between
on it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I integrate the both of them now. It's kind of what I. So.
And let me ask you this: what do you see as the future for yourself in the next 5 years, and the future of Good Life in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean the industry is so ever changing. So I don't know, as far as Good Life's plans, they're continuing to expand services and continuing to recruit advisors in. So I think they're on a good path. I think the good thing about the executive leadership team here at Good Life is they're always forward thinking and really ahead of the game. So I commend them for that. We were ahead of the curve when we were recruiting advisors and the way in which we were doing it. And I know some of the services and things that they're testing out with my practice, which is great. So there's always that, leveraging technology in a different way. So that's kind of on the Good Life side. As for me, I would love to eventually bring a junior partner in and kind of shed some of the responsibilities that I have. It's just, like I said, it's myself and my admin, and I have a habit of saying yes to everybody that wants to walk through my door, and I understand that that's not scalable. But if I were to have a junior in here, I think it would be good, because we're able to continue to service the clients and give everybody access to financial advice. I think that's something that's differentiated me from a lot of our competition. I don't have minimums. A 18-year-old that I just spoke to at our high school gets their first job and they want to invest with me, I say yes to them, because I just feel that I'm telling them you need to find somewhere to go invest at this age. And then if they come to me and I'm saying no, I just think it's really hypocritical. But I also understand that my time is worth something. So I'm trying to find that balance right now for myself, of continuing to bring in the clients that I want to work with, while also being able to give everybody access to financial advice. Because I think people can't do it on their own. I don't think robots are going to take out our industry. I really don't think
Yeah.
that. People want to talk to somebody and they want that relationship. And so I just need to find somebody that's young and wants to learn and kind of run with me for the foreseeable future and continue to service our community.
Really cool.
And looking at what do you see as the future of the industry? Any trends, developments you think that are really going to be precedent?
I think that, how do I think? I think a lot of things about our industry. I think there's a lot of advisors that are retiring. I think there's a lot of younger advisors that aren't exactly coming into the business, at least from what we have seen. A lot of the advisors that we have at Good Life are probably between 45 and 55. So we still have some runway space with some of them, but there's not a lot of like younger advisors, at least in my community, that are kind of working, their way up through the ranks. I think there's just been so much mergers, acquisitions that have happened too with a lot of the bigger firms, that it's going to be, you're either going to work for one of 2 or 3 wirehouses, or you're going to be on your own. I think that's going to be really where you're at. And if you don't have an established practice, you can't really go independent. So I just think that the RIA space is going to continue to grow, because I think RIAs are going to continue to buy other RIAs as people want to get out of the business. So I think that will start to happen. And I think that you're going to have a few big wirehouses and banks that are going to be on that side of things. And it's hard to leave the banking channel, because the relationship isn't as, I was in a unique situation where we were at Waddell & Reed. We weren't a bank. We were a financial services firm only doing financial planning. So I didn't have to worry about mortgages or checking accounts or other investment banking products tied to my clients, where they didn't want to leave because they didn't want to, have everything disjointed.
Right.
I think it's going to get harder to leave when you're working with some of these other kind of banks. I would say if I was, in college and speaking to my younger self wanting to go into this business, I would try to get an internship with a registered investment advisor somewhere and just go right to that, because that's really where you, in my opinion, is kind of where you'd ultimately want to land. So I think you almost have to start at an RIA if that's the path you want to go.
So do you think, in your opinion, that, obviously you got so many advisors, which the average age in this industry being, I think I looked it up, being like around 58 and a half or 59 years old, right? And you got, in the next 10 years, you got over 100,000, advisors retiring, right? So if, let's just say, assets didn't grow whatsoever, when I researched that number, it looked to be, we're just saying assets stayed flat, right? They didn't grow. That's, almost $50 trillion of movement right there.
Yeah.
That, funnel to one of these, big five that you're talking about. Now, if you take a look back, 35, 40 years ago or so, there was just the big wirehouses and then, a few independent individuals, right? Do you think it's going back in that direction?
I don't know that it's going back in that direction. What we're seeing, especially being our own RIA, is it's a lot of other RIAs buying up other RIAs to become bigger RIAs. That's what we're seeing, at least on our side. There's a lot of that. And the valuations that some of these RIAs are getting is crazy. I mean, it's like 15x multiples on things. So, I don't know if it's private equity money coming in to buy up the registered investment advisors or what, but, if you have somebody that's all fee-based and they're charging, 1.1% or whatever on their assets, it's predictable revenue, it's predictable income that's coming in. So I think kind of gone is the days where you had some of the older advisors, especially on the banking channel. There was a lot of, bank advisors that they were just selling annuities and a couple brokerage accounts. So advisory is kind of the way of the world now. And I think that's where that RIA space is only going to continue to really expand.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I look as a a founder and managing partner of a private equity
Mhm.
firm that buys we buy minority stakes in
Mhm.
RIAs. I can tell you the multiples have gotten pretty competitive, right?
Mhm.
And the what does it say? Well, I was going to say there the situation is when I take a look at that, right? I'm always like, wow, does it still have room for growth, right?
Mhm.
Does it still have room to move up there? How much are people actually going to pay? But I can tell you, having been in finance my entire life in another industry, you see the pendulum swing in the other direction, and people do overpay, and people they're when you just right, it's almost like real estate, right? When home values start going up, and you think, oh, I'm going to wait for them to go down 25%, and then
Yes.
before you know it, they're up an additional 50%.
Yeah.
I have a feeling with the amount of movement that's going to be happening in this space that you know we haven't seen we haven't seen people pay the most that they're actually going to pay for these, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point there. And let me ask you this: what do you think the economic outlook looks like? We've had so much happen with our economy,
Mhm.
interest rates, COVID. Um, you know, tell me what you think is gonna take place there.
Yeah, I mean, I think our position, we have a team of 4 analysts that work directly for Good Life. They're thankfully right up the hall from me, so it makes it nice for me when I have clients in. But we're really our position, especially on interest rates. We don't feel like rates will probably come down. If they come down, maybe November. But if we're kind of staying in this environment that we're in right now, I don't think there's reason to cut rates. I think it would actually do much more harm than good. So I
Right,
think we're kind of, in my opinion, we're going to be kind of hanging out in this range for at least the next 4 to 5 months. And even one rate cut, I don't know how much of an impact that's going to really have. Um, Sorry, my thing was reconnecting. So yeah, I don't know how much impact that's really going to have. Um, I don't know. I think we're of the mindset that we really just feel like we're going to be at like elevated interest rates for at least the next year overall.
Hmm.
And I think that's going to just trickle down to in many ways and differently into every asset class. So I don't know that we've really we're going to see like a huge change from the current environment that we're in.
Right. Well, interesting times ahead for sure, Courtney.
Yeah.
I think that wraps up our show today. Thank you so much for
Thank you for
joining
having
us,
me.
for sharing your insights, your expertise, and your story with us and our listeners. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the What Matters podcast. Stay tuned next time for more thought-provoking conversations with industry leaders and game changers. Thanks, everyone.